everyone, it's Sharana from Pay Your Weights, and today we're going to be reviewing Killing Eve Season 3, Episode 8, Are You Leading or Am I? It is the Season 3 of Killing Eve. I can't believe that we went through 8 episodes that quickly. It just felt like it was just yesterday when the season premiere came, but unfortunately we have come to the end of the road of Season 3, and now it's time to talk about how we felt about tonight's finale. So the episode opens up with Villanelle, and she's at the Royal Albert Hall, where she is meeting with Carolyn because she wants to ask Carolyn, she wants to accept the offer that she gave her when she was in jail, to come and work for MI6. And so we're seeing this theme of Villanelle feeling as though she's kind of been at this crossroads. She's bored with what she's doing. She doesn't want to kill anymore. She wants to do something different. For the first part of the season, we thought that she wanted to be a handler. However, when she realized that the 12 was never going to let her actually stop killing, she just realized she didn't want to do it anymore. And it could be from the interaction she had with killing her mother, or just she's just over it at this point. And so one of the things that I find so fascinating with the conversation that she has with Carolyn, after Carolyn flat out asks her, like, okay, so do you know who killed Mo? Do you know who killed Kenny? Like, give me the answers, because that's what I'm trying to figure out anyway. But when she tells her, she's like, what would you do? And she's like, oh, I could be a spy for you guys. I'm like, girl, this is not a James Bond film. What are you talking about, be a spy? And then even Carolyn tells her, you're only good for one thing. And if you don't want to kill, then what good are you? And so at this point is when she's come to this realization that people only want Villanelle to be the killer. They don't want any more from her. They don't want any type of personal, professional growth in her life outside of, she is a killer. This is why we deal with you. This is why you're such a hot commodity. This is why people want you to work for them. And if you don't have that to offer, then there's nothing that people want to necessarily do with you. And so we see that after she leaves, she ends up meeting with Eve. And I was like, Eve, so let me get this straight. Okay, now you've been going through some stuff, so I am not judging, because you see I am clean faced because I am mentally, I can't just go any further than what I have this week so far. But you've been bumming it all season, and then you meet your boo thing, and then you want to put some clothes on. She didn't brush her hair. She probably took a shower, washed her hair, put on makeup and stuff. I was like, oh, okay, Eve. I'm glad to know that you could dress up. You better look good for your little boo thing, because she was looking good for you too, boo. So they end up meeting at this place. She gotta ask her, like, what is it? Why are we meeting here? And she's like, this is the country I had my first kill. And I was like, of course, Villanelle, you always have to come back to reminding people that you're a killer. Isn't this what you're trying to get away from that branding? You're trying to brand yourself into someone new. And so I thought it was a very, very great acting from Jodie in this scene. And we kind of see her, she's looking at these people and she's telling Eve that, I want to be like these people. I want to be happy. Like, I just want to be free. And you kind of see the tears in her eyes, like starting to well up in her eye. And I just thought it was so beautifully done. Great acting from Jodie, but just more importantly, how they have that close up on her face, as you can really feel the emotion, what she's saying, as she's really trying to become this different person, or try to find a sense of normalcy, but that really never happens for her. And so we see that Eve ends up asking her to dance, and then there's more moments of her just being happy. She kind of closes her eyes. They have this conversation back and forth, like, do you want us to be like that old couple? And she was like, no, we would consume each other before. And then we see that this kind of happy reunion between Eve and Villanelle is broken up when she sees Helen, her little number 2 henchwoman, pops up, and then basically she tells Eve, hey, you need to go. She hands her a note. She's like, what is this? It's your freedom. And then we see that the lady comes up to her, because I still ain't figured out what this girl name is. All I know is she the woman who killed Mo last week's episode. I don't know this girl name. I'm sorry to this woman. But we see that she tells her that Helen wants to meet with her. And then they have a very awkward exchange amongst one another. So after they go to the subway, and then Villanelle kind of judges her, like, why do you wear what you wear? She's like, well, I'm just trying to be comfortable. She's like, isn't it what they say to people before they die? And you see that they are both killers, but they're just two totally different people. And Villanelle, just being extra as she possibly can be, starts tickling her, which sets the girl off pushes Villanelle into like the wall, like going off of her, but then Villanelle was like, I'm sorry. And then she ends up beating, she beat the brakes off of that girl, okay? And she wasn't even trying. And this is in broad daylight. But I mean, it was in the middle of the subway tunnel. I was just like, you don't wanna like try to like lay low, take it to a little corner. No, okay, fine. So then the girl started with, I'm sorry, I apologize. But then she kind of gets close to the end, and I'm like, this girl is clearly about to kick her on these train tracks. And of course she does, and then the train ends up killing her. And I'm just like, girl, what is Helen finna do to you? Because Helen told you wouldn't be able, I will kill you before you would come and kill me. Okay, so I don't know what is going to happen next season between Helen and Villanelle, but I think it's going to be pretty serious, and we're going to see what Helen is actually made of. Was she talking out the side of her neck, or was she really about that life? So we end up seeing that Eve, how do I want to do this? Actually, I'm going to put a pause on Villanelle for now, because I think for the most part, everything that happens, really happens in this big confrontation with Villanelle, Eve, Carolyn, Paul, Constantine. So I guess we'll talk about Constantine for the meantime. So he had a heart attack in last week's episode, but he's in the hospital getting his vitals checked. They want to keep observing him, but he wants to get the heck up out of there because he is trying to leave the country. And so Constantine ends up, putting his clothes on. He's like, I'm finna leave. I don't care if I just had a heart attack. I got to get this money. I got to go. And then he runs into Dasha, and then Dasha ends up telling him, they have this back and forth. And he tells her, like, what did you think? Like, you tried to kill her. And she's like, well, I was just trying to prove to them that, she wasn't ready. And he was just like, you tried to make her play by your rules. And there's just no way that she was going to do that. And then Dasha tells him, like, you're just as much as blame. Like, you gave her, like, no rules, like no supervision. You let her do what she wanted to do. And you and I are both to blame for the person that Villanelle is now and today. And we never really see Constantine really take responsibility for his role to play in, everything that has happened with Villanelle, because to be honest, he is still partially responsible for the death of her mother. Like, why would you give her, access to her family like this when you know what she's capable of, and who the person who you guys have really made her become? She's a killer, first and foremost, before anything else. And so I found that to be very interesting. I'm assuming Dasha died after she was trying to tell him to, like, come back, or, when she was yelling at him, like, we are about to blame, but I think she died. I was like, rest in peace, Dasha. You was trash, but rest in peace anyway. So we see that Carolyn is having this conversation with her daughter child. I was like, girl, are you sure this your kid? Because the way that you be treating your daughter, I'd be like, you sure you the mama? Because I feel like there's another secret that needs to come out. So the daughter is reading, like, this long letter to her. And when Carolyn opens up her book that's clearly empty, as she wrote this long soliloquy. Sorry, guys, I'm still sick. To Carolyn, and she opens up this empty book, and she was like, I want you to leave. And I was like, what? Girl, you can't say this girl just said all that to you. That's all you gotta say is you want her to leave. And so Carolyn is trying to keep telling her, like, the relationship that you're trying to have, like, it's not going to happen. I am not built that way emotionally to give you the emotional love and care that you need from your mother. That's never been me. That's why me and Kenny got along. Like, I don't even understand. We're still having this conversation. So I guess Carolyn just gave up. She's like, you gotta go. Get out of my house. You're grown. You can pay your own bills. Do whatever you need to do. But you gotta get up from under my roof, okay? Get to the end of the day. So we see that she's called by Paul and Kenny's, like, old coworkers. And so essentially we see that there was a video that they didn't check that they just discovered. And it shows that Constantine was actually there the day that Kenny died, that he was pushed off of the roof. And I was like, I knew Constantine Raggedy Behind had something to do with his murder. I knew it since day one. I said, I bet you that Raggedy Constantine got something to do with this. And he did. So Carolyn was like, look, I'm about this life. That's not what she said, but she showed us, because essentially she ends up going to Paul's house, holds a gun on him, and ends up calling Constantine to tell him that he knows that he's the one that's stealing money from the 12. Come meet him right now. But before all of this, Eve goes to the deposit box to kind of get the whatever Constantine had in the deposit box ends up being this like little toy that goes into all the different leaders of Russia. I was just like, what? But it has a barcode on it. Constantine ends up running into Eve, who actually got it first because Villanelle told her to do so. And then they kind of go back and forth. Constantine, like, he finna have another heart attack. Like, sir, you probably should have sat your behind down and got some rest. But I appreciate what he says to Eve. And he's just like, you need to know your place. Like, he really should have said, mind your business. You always find yourself enthralled into all this extra stuff because you're too busy chasing after Villanelle for some stuff that really ain't got nothing to do with you. Like, why do you have yourself involved? This is how Nico ended up in the hospital. Your marriage is shambles. You don't work for the MI6 no more because you don't know when to stop, when to just let it be. So I thought it was hilarious when Villanelle actually goes to Kenny's old office to look for Eve, and she runs into all the co-workers who are terrified of her because they've heard all these crazy stories. I thought that was just really hilarious. And Jody, who just, you don't know if she's going to kill you one day or just to say something funny, but I thought that whole interaction between them was absolutely hilarious when she points out, like, that one wasn't me, but like everything else, that was definitely me. I was just like, ma'am, just let these people be in peace because you know they're scared of you. But the most enjoyable part of the season really comes in the last 15 minutes of the episode. And so we see that when Eve and Constantine are going to Paul's house, they see that Carolyn has a gun on Paul. She tells Constantine to go sit on the couch. And then she was like, Eve, what are you doing here? She's like, well, Villanelle told me to come. And she's like, obviously. And then the doorbell rings. This is Villanelle. And so Carolyn yells at them and tells them to sit down and shut up so she can get through what she needs to get through. And so this is really where, he doesn't really admit to it. Paul never really admits that he is a part of the 12. He kind of says, like, I'm playing a double agent because I'm trying to get surveillance or whatnot, but obviously none of us believe this at all. That's why Mo was murdered, because he actually caught on that Paul was a part of the 12. And so Carolyn basically says, like, I saw the video. I know you were there. I know you had something to do with my son dying. So I'm looking shook. Eve looking shook. Villanelle looking like, oh, this finna be juicy. And then essentially, this is when Constantine was about to lie and be like, I care for you. Somebody that I love. She's like, shut up. Shut up. And then she said, get on your knees. So she ends up shooting Paul, which I was shocked. And then Eve looking at her like, ma'am, what are you doing? You could have used Paul as a witness. You should have killed Constantine because you know he probably killed your son. Talking about, I was trying to save him. I was trying to tell him, if you're going to research, look into the 12, then you need to go work for them. I was trying to save his life. He got scared and he got too close to the edge and he fell. Carolyn, I know the pain wasn't that good for you to really believe that story and really just let him go. It ain't that much love in the world that somebody can kill your child and get away with it, live to tell the tale. I was like, what were you thinking? Even Eve was like, girl, what are you doing? And so, Carolyn kind of tells her, like, Eve, you need to just leave all this stuff alone. So Carolyn calls it in as a suicide. And then even Villanelle's like, you're right, girl. Like, what you trying to do? And so we see that they end up having this conversation. But before that, I do have to say, I also chuckled out loud when she was, when Villanelle was like, hey, do you know Helen? And then she was like, it was a hostile work environment. And then when Eve is asking about Nico, and that's when Carolyn had to tell him, shut up. Like, this is my thing that I'm doing. Zip it. So Eve and Villanelle have a very interesting conversation on the bridge. And Villanelle asks her, like, do you think I'm a monster? And she was like, you're a lot of things, but everybody's a monster. Like, we all have that in us. You just wear it out loud and proud. And then she tells her, she said that she thinks that her monster encourages Eve's monster. And then Eve asks her, like, can you help me make my monster go away? And so Villanelle says it's easy. And she essentially tells her to turn around, close her eyes. And then they're back to back and having a moment. And then she says, okay, and now we have to walk and never look back. Almost as if as Villanelle wants to help her let that go. And because she thinks that she does encourage a bad part of Eve, she's willing to walk away because she cares that much to make sure that Eve can find the peace that she actually needs. And this is when they start walking. However, they both stop and just stare at each other and it kind of goes off. And so for me, I love the conversation that they have with each other because they both acknowledge that there is something that attracts them to one another, but it also brings out bad things in Eve. And I would assume this will be Eve taking responsibility that Villanelle has caused a lot of bad things to happen to Eve, you know, in her life since she's basically met her. Like everything has went wrong from her marriage, her job, just everything has been in shambles for the people that she's lost as well. But I don't know if it means because they stop and look at each other that they decide to be together, or they decide that they really do need to leave each other alone so they both can really figure out who they want to be or be the person that they feel that they need to be. Which is weird because I think that Villanelle wants to be good when she's with Eve. However, Eve wants to be bad when she's with Villanelle. And so I don't necessarily know how that works. It really conflicts with what they're trying to do. So I don't know what is in the cards for these two as far as them being together in next season, in season 4. But overall for me, how I felt about the episode, yeah. Even though I thought the whole interaction with Constantine and Carolyn was interesting, I still just, I don't know, it was just weird. I felt like there should have been like a bigger surprise, a bigger conspiracy that was technically happening, you know, that had to do with Kenny's death. I don't know. I feel like the season overall, it was kind of a letdown for me. While I still enjoyed most of the episodes, it wasn't enough Eve in this season. I did appreciate the self-discovery or this kind of journey that Villanelle kind of took herself on as she's trying to leave the killing behind, reconcile with her past, and trying to find a path forward to be a different person. But I just think that it took too long to really get to that point, and I don't necessarily think that anything is really resolved outside of Constantine killed Kenny or didn't kill Kenny. I don't know. It just started off with a bang, and I just felt like it was just like, nah, I don't know. I think that this is like the weakest season just as a whole from a storytelling point of view, but I still do think it's a strong season as far as for Villanelle, as us getting to know her a lot more than her just being this psychopath who just kills people and just, you know, like has all these issues. I do think that I appreciate the storyline with Villanelle this season, but I want to see more with Eve and them together and not necessarily always teasing them. Teasing us about them, like make a decision. If not, just keep them apart, keep them together. I mean, I'm just saying, like, I felt like the story suffered because we were too consumed with the will they, won't they, will they, won't they, or will they see each other? I don't know. But for me, the finale, it was fine. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't horrible. I love the whole interaction at the end. But I think overall for me, this season is a little bit of a letdown. Not to say that the cast wasn't great as a whole. Always superb acting. But I'm very interested to see what they do with season 4. I would love to see Helen back with a vengeance for her killing her number 2. But we'll just have to wait and see. So those are my thoughts on Killing Eve. Season 3, episode 8. Are you leading or am I? As always, my name is Sharona from Pay Your Weights. And if you like what you saw today, make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, share this video with your friends, and make sure you hit the notification bell. And I love you guys 3000. I'll see you soon.